Hey y'all, and welcome to this week's From the Vault episode from the Magdalen House podcast. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization based in Dallas, Texas, and known affectionately by many as Maggies. Every first and third Wednesday, we bring you a new release, and our From the Vault episodes, we share podcast releases from our 3 different podcast series, RecoverED, RecoverED, Interviews with Alcoholics, and Hope for the Family. Our podcasts aim to connect, inspire, and educate alcoholics, loved ones, and the community to the Magdalen House and the services we offer. We are so glad that you're here. Thanks for listening.
All right. Hello, podcast listeners. My name is Stephanie Crawford, and I am the host of this here podcast. Today, we're doing a special edition of Studying the Steps, Prayers, Promises, and Principles. So I'm really excited about today's guest. Her name is Cindy, and she is one of our chairs on Mondays at noon. So if you love what you hear today, you can check out our meeting schedule online and sit in on meetings. So I'm going to turn it over to Cindy and allow you to do your thing. And then if we have questions, are we allowed to ask questions?
Sure.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, then. Hi, everybody. I'm Cindy. I'm a very grateful recovered alcoholic. My sobriety date is January the 18th of 2003. And Maggie's is just the dearest place to me. And it's such an honor to be with you guys today. My assignment is to talk about the prayers, the principles, and the promises of step 3. I want to start by saying that in the steps, I've really taken notice lately that they're all written kind of in the past tense, which I think is really interesting because these were written after Bill had taken these steps. And so, for example, it says, well, let's start here. On page 60, it says, being convinced that we were at step 3. And being convinced that we were at step 3 is that we completely understand and know the A, B's, and C's written above. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. And both of those have to do with step 1, powerlessness. I am absolutely powerless. And then step 2 is C, that God could and would if he were sought. And in step 2 says, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. At step 2, it's really hope. My problem in step 1 is that I'm powerless. And in step 2, I'm hoping because I'm acting just simply on faith and hope that a power greater than myself can restore me to sanity. After I've worked the steps and the longer I stay sober, the deeper and the more profound my belief is. So I have absolutely come to believe and know for a fact that a power greater than myself has restored me to sanity. That sets up, this is why we have to be convinced that we were at step 3. And step 3 is that we decided to turn our will and life over to the care of God as we understood him. I'm on page 60, if you're with me in the book. And it says, just what do we mean by that? And just what do we do? This brings us to a principle. It says, the first requirement is that we be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. I have to be completely honest with you. When I was taking step 3, I was giving lip service to this. Today, I'm absolutely convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. But in the beginning, I was just going along, okay, all right, okay, I'm convinced. But really deep in my secret most part of my heart, I wasn't convinced of that. I really didn't start getting convinced of that until I was in steps 4 and 5. And then the longer I lived, the more I realized that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. At its best, my self-will can give me temporary success. It gave me no success with alcohol. But in other areas of my life, like in business or in family settings or whatever, I thought that some amount of self-will would give me what I needed and what was best for all. Those were fleeting. and those weren't permanent. So I have to be convinced that my self-will isn't going to get the job done, because if I am doing that, sooner or later I'm going to be in collision, it says. And this is also a principle. When I'm trying to live by self-will, I am ultimately at some point going to be in collision with, I used to think that my belief system on how things should be and what was right and what was wrong was a fact that we could all agree upon, like everybody would say, yes, of course we should do this or that or the other. But the truth is, it's not a fact. It's just what I believe. Okay. And so I tried to live by self-propulsion. I wanted to run the whole show. I didn't think I was doing that, but make me a chairman of a committee or make me a leader in any given area of my life and put me in charge of something. And I am going to really become the actor who wants to run the whole show. And I am shocked when people don't agree with me, just shocked. And so when I'm trying to arrange everything to suit myself, I'm really going to be disappointed. I'm going to be in conflict with others. And I didn't see that so much when I first took step 3. If you're like me, you think that the biggest problem is that other people's wills are causing you the problem. It's my self-will that's causing the problem. But I didn't fully begin to comprehend that until I took a look at steps 4 and 5. So if you're just at step 3, you have to take this on faith and just know that this is going to be the truth. Because it says what usually happens, the show doesn't come off very well. He begins to think life doesn't treat him right. He decides to exert himself more. He becomes on the next occasion still more demanding or gracious, as the case may be. I mean, we manipulate without even knowing that we're manipulating, trying to get our own way. And so this principle that we want to focus on is that this isn't God's will. God's will is going to have to be what's going, not Cindy's will. And that's a tough one. It's a tough one in the beginning. I love the sentence. It says, what is his basic trouble? Is he not really a self-seeker even when trying to be kind? Is he not a victim of the delusion that he can wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this world if only he manages well? Again, I can manage well up to a point, but it will not solve whatever the whole thing is. I can, on my very best day, when everything is going right, it's only temporary. It's not the permanent happiness that we're looking for, the permanent peace and serenity. And it says, is he not a victim of the delusion? This is a delusional thought that I can wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this world if only I manage well. And I do not manage well. I can be so convinced that something's right and find out that it's wrong. And that is the beginning of humility. And today, I'm happy to tell you, I accept that. I accept that I could be wrong. It's real easy. After you've fallen so many times and been wrong about so many things, it's pretty easy for me to say, you know what, I could be wrong. I don't know. But in the beginning, these are just ideas that Bill's introducing us to. And then he says, our actor is self-centered, egocentric, as people like to call it nowadays. He is like the retired businessman who lolls in the Florida sunshine in the winter, complaining of the sad state of the nation. Boy, I'm retired, and it's real easy for me to go, oh, you guys have really screwed this up. You don't know what you're doing. I mean, nobody out there knows what they're doing, is the truth. We have to put this reliance upon God. So then we turn over to page 62, and this becomes an absolute principle. Selfishness and self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles. If only people would do it my way, only people saw the world the way I did, everything would be right. Selfishness, I used to think selfishness was just simply not being willing to share my things with other people. I thought selfishness was me being greedy, that kind of thing. Selfishness is anytime I think I know what's right and you're wrong. Okay. So that's the root of our troubles. And so we're now starting to look at what's wrong with us more than just alcohol. Selfishness is the root of our troubles. It is the spiritual malady that we get into in step 4. It says, driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity, we step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. So selfishness is driven by things other than just simply not wanting to share. Anytime I'm in fear, I'm in self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity. These are all forms of selfish. And again, sometimes they hurt us seemingly without provocation, but we invariably find that at some time in the past, we've made decisions based on self, which later placed us to be in a position of hurt. Oh, how true that is. I think I know who ought to be in my life. Okay. That every one of us have done this. We've fallen in love with somebody and we must have this person. This is the person, right? And we're so certain of it. And we do everything to get this person into our life. And 2 weeks down the road or 2 years down the road, we go, oh my God, what was I thinking? This was wrong. I mean, I was so certain at the time. And then as time went by, I went, oh God, what have I done? And this is a great example because I think all of us have done this at some point in our lives. And that's a glaring example of how much we need a God of our understanding to be directing our lives, that we need to turn our will and life over to the care of God. So these are just examples of what we could kind of readily begin to see. You know, I must have God. I must let God, I must turn my will and life over to the care of God. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves. And the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. I never thought I was self-will run riot. I thought all of you were self-will run riot, and I was just trying to slip into the closet and drink and not make problems, right? But even that was self-will run riot, because I'm going to drink no matter what. And that's the first example that we can see pretty easily of our selfishness and self-centeredness. But if you're like me, you think you're doing it to protect yourself. You think you're doing it to be able to cope with this world. Above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness principle. We must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. Selfishness is what's going to kill me, not alcohol. Selfishness is what's going to kill me, because selfishness will take me back to alcohol. That's why sponsors are so quick to tell you, don't do this, don't do that, blah, blah, blah. And you're going, what does that have to do with drinking? Everything. Because when self comes into play and I'm demanding that it be my way, I'm going to cut myself off from the sunlight of the spirit and I will drink again.
Looking for a way to give back and get involved with the Magdalen House? No work is too small, and our dedicated volunteers serve as a valuable resource to our organization. We couldn't help alcoholic women and their families without the priceless services they provide. We provide opportunities for all, as well as opportunities strictly for women in recovery. To get started, please visit our website at magdalenhouse.org/volunteers and click on New Volunteer Sign Up.
So I made up my mind to do unselfish works. And I baked cookies for my next door neighbors who had just moved in. And they didn't say thank you. And I was really upset about that. The nerve, just to eat the cookies and not even acknowledge that I'd given them to them. You see, on my own, trying to be unselfish, I'm doing it for selfish motives. I'm self-seeking, right? So I have to depend on God to do this. And how am I going to work with God in order to do this? How is this going to be able to happen? Well, I have to work the rest of the step. And there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without a Z. Many of us had moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we could not live up to them, even though we would have liked to. I knew the difference between right and wrong. I knew a lot of things, but I did not have the power to make it happen. I could not reduce my self-centeredness by wishing or trying on my own power. We had to have God's help. Principle. I must have God's help with getting rid of selfishness. Absolute principle. And so this is the how and the why of it. And all of these are principles. First of all, we had to quit playing God. Anytime I'm trying to make decisions for other people or tell you how you ought to behave or tell you this or that or the other, I'm playing God in your life. I don't know what God's plan is. We look around at the things that are happening in the world today and we go, the world must be coming to an end, or whatever, terrible. This is all terrible. We don't know, because we don't know God's plan. We have no idea what God's plan is. And so we have to just do what we know he would have us do. So we have to quit playing God. It didn't work. Next, we decided that hereafter in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. That is a principle. God is my director. God is my director. He is the principal. We are his agents. We're just agents of God. I was thinking today about taking people to treatment centers. I remember one time this guy called me and he desperately wanted help for his mother. So I marched over to her house and I said, I'm going to take you to Maggie's and because after all, my motives were good. My motives were good. I wanted to do this. Of course, after she was there 10 minutes, she snuck out, got a cab and left. I mean, I never once, and I was so upset about that. But see, I am just an agent of God. I am not getting anybody sober. I am not solving anybody's problem. I am an agent, just an agent. He is the principal. We are his agents. He is the father. We are his children. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we pass to freedom. This is the top of the arch, right? And this is the keystone is always, if you build a brick arch in your yard or whatever, what holds that arch together is the keystone at the top. So this is the fundamental thing that's going to hold everything together, is this keystone. And the keystone is I am just a child of God. I am just an agent of God. And he is going to be the boss. Okay. He is going to be the boss. Now, I don't know how to make that happen. I don't know how to let go of all of my stuff so that God can do that. Don't worry. It comes with the rest of the steps. Okay, these are basic principles. Here are the promises of step 3. It says, number 1, when we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. Okay, number 1, we had a new employer. And we're not just talking about your employer at work. This is my employer and all that I do. I have a new employer. I have to remember that when I get advice from well-meaning friends. They are not my employer. God is my employer, right? If you've ever been foolish enough to take a survey of 50 different people rather than your sponsor about what you should do about any given situation, you can learn this. But God is my ultimate employer, and he is working through my sponsor at this point. Being all powerful, here's promise number 2. Being all powerful, he provided what we needed if we kept close to him and performed his work well. Okay, he's going to provide everything I need. This is a promise. This is an absolute promise. And as one of my old sponsors used to say, if God's going to provide you with everything you need, what else do you need? And fear always comes into play for me. Am I going to have enough money to live on till I die? Because I'm retired. And that fear comes in, and I have to remember God is going to provide everything I need. But there is the caveat what I have to do then, this is going to happen if I stay close to him and perform his work well. What is his work? His work is for me to complete these steps and help other women alcoholics. That's the only thing I know for sure. I don't know any other action I'm supposed to be taking, but that I do know for sure. It says, established on such a footing, this is the next promise. We became less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans and designs. If you're sitting there thinking about yourself all day long and your little plans and your little designs, you're not there. You haven't received this promise. Because what we were looking to have happen is more and more we become interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. That is, who knew? But that is the key to happiness. I never knew that. I never knew what I could contribute to life would bring me happiness. I remember when I first got sober, I got sober on a Saturday, and on Friday night, my sponsor was taking me to the Salvation Army, and she wouldn't let me talk yet, but I had gotten to step 12. I hadn't made all my amends yet, but I had gotten to step 12 in just 6 days. I mean, that's how quickly she took me through this work. And she took me to the Salvation Army, and I thought, you mean like every Friday night I have to go to the Salvation Army? And she said, yes. That sounded absolutely dreadful, even though I had worked these steps. It secretly, I was, oh geez, Friday nights, every Friday night. That's a long drive. And I went with her to the Salvation Army that first Friday night. She made me keep my mouth shut, listen. And all these women came up to me afterward and were asking me questions. And I was talking with them. And I walked out on cloud nine. So more and more we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. That was the secret. As we felt new power flow in, as we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we could face life successfully, as we became conscious of his presence, we began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter we were reborn. I'll admit to you, and this is true for all alcoholics. I don't care how long you've been sober. Fears and resentments and unhappiness and all sorts of things will creep in. They do. They really, really do. But we will begin to lose those fears. We will begin to lose fear is my biggest character defect. And I was telling Emily earlier today, I heard a rap song last night that said, if you're worrying, you're not praying. And if you're praying, you're not worrying. So I have to replace fear with prayer. I have to replace worry with prayer, because these are part of the promises and these are part of the principles. And then it says this wonderful promise is that we were reborn. We were reborn. I have almost 19 years of sobriety, and I don't even remember the person I used to be. I remember events. I remember the things that I did. I remember the unhappiness. I remember all kinds of things. I haven't forgotten those things, but I don't recognize that person today. I have been reborn. It says, so now we come to the prayer of step 3. And it says, many of us said to our Maker as we understood him, God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. So I'm offering God all of me to rebuild with me and do with me whatever he wants. I said that prayer on my knees with my sponsor, and I meant it, but I had no idea what a major overhaul that was going to be. The longer I stay doing this, the more shocked I am by the major. It's like a reconstruction that's beyond anything we can imagine, to rebuild with me and do with me as he will. Relieve me of the bondage of self. Thinking about me is bondage. It is absolute bondage. It's like being in jail. And it's really hard, especially for those of us who are trying to stay indoors a lot because of COVID, it's real easy to fall into that bondage of self. And that is a prison. But we have a telephone and we have a computer, and we can get in touch with people and get out of ourselves. So I'm asking God to relieve me of the bondage of self, not just so that I can be more comfortable, so that I can better do his will. Because if I'm locked in the bondage of self, I can't do his will. Thinking about me is well, as I used to hear in some AA meetings, if I'm spending a lot of time in my mind thinking about myself, I am walking around in a very dangerous neighborhood. It is not anything but trouble. So I want to be relieved of the bondage of self, just not so that I can be carefree, but so that I can better help other people. Take away my difficulties. The first difficulty is my obsession with alcohol, but there are going to be much more difficulties that come along too. But take away my difficulties, not just so that I can be free of alcohol, but so that I can bear witness to those I would help of God's power, his love, and his way of life. So having alcohol removed, which is the first difficulty, I am going to bear witness. That is, I am going to tell other people what was done for me. I'm going to share that experience with other people. And that is a promise that I am making to God. The step 3 prayer is a mutual thing. I'm asking God to do these things for me, and I am going to do these things for him. It's like a contract, that I may better witness to those I would help of that power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. It says we thought well before taking this step, making sure we were ready, that we could at last abandon ourselves utterly to him. And it tells us that it's better that we take this step with a person who's going to understand. And it says, though this is only a beginning, if honestly and humbly made, in effect, sometimes a very great one was felt at once. But this prayer is just the beginning of me seeking to have a spiritual awakening. I am not having a spiritual awakening at step 3. It is just a beginning. Sometimes a great effect might be felt. And a lot of us, I know a lot of people in the past, and I know it was true of me all during my relapse days, that I kind of stopped at step 3 because I thought, I got God now. No, this is just a beginning. This is a beginning. And it's going to tell you before you begin step 4, that though this decision that we make in step 3 is a vital and crucial step, it can't have any permanent effect unless immediately followed by step 4. So principles, promises, prayer. We read the promises. The principles are, I have to understand that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. I have to make this attempt to turn my will and life over to the care of God. I don't really know how to do it myself. I'm making this prayer. I'm saying this prayer with all that I have at this particular moment in time. And I'm trusting that as time goes by and I work the rest of the steps, all of this is going to be revealed. But step 3 is just a beginning. It's just a beginning on this spiritual journey. Okay, questions, comments, concerns?
That was beautiful. So, I mean, and everything was really hit on. Does anybody have anything that they want to comment or ask a question about? I don't know. I guess that means covered everything, because usually I have something that I want to ask, but that was really good and thorough. So,
well, the good news is that for step 3, it's so clear. You know, it's very clear, very concise, and the book tells us all.
Well, that was wonderful. Thank you so much, Cindy, for talking to us, and I will be very excited to release this episode. So I will be talking to you all soon.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you for listening.
Yes, it was. Thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed this From the Vault re-release of the Magdalen House podcast. Tune in every first and third Wednesday for a new release from one of our 3 podcast series. To learn more about the Magdalen House and the services we offer, visit magdalenhouse.org or follow us on your favorite social media channels by searching for the Magdalen House.